where we dive into the topic of beyond sustainability and rethinking the future with regenerative supply chains. So it's now a great honor to welcome to the stage Dr. Sathya Menon, Group CEO of Blue Ocean Corporation and Vice Chairman of CILT UAE Chapter. A very warm welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have been to many conferences, listened to a lot of speakers on sustainability. But if all of you here put your hand to your heart and think beyond the boardrooms, beyond the regulatory frameworks, do people on the ground really know what sustainability? The people who are working in your organization, a common man, your family member, your children. So possibly children might be much more educated than many of us are today because of the curriculum which they have in the school. Because what I feel, whatever we speak in the boardrooms, whatever we speak in the conferences, whatever regulatory frameworks which put pressure on organization to report the sustainability metrics or ESG, unless people take it to their heart that if we don't act now, things will be very difficult later on. As every day passes, as every month, year, we are getting into worse and worse situations with respect to the climate. Now, we are all contributors of this. So, let me start my topic, beyond sustainability. We have been talking about sustainability from 2000s. People have seen some improvement. Companies have realized they have to go into carbon neutrality. But what's regenerative supply chain? So rethinking the future with regenerative supply chain. How businesses can restore, replenish and reinvent their impact through these practices. 1 billion years ago, Earth was born. Lush, full, thriving of life. Then the industrial era came. And today, the Earth is dying. Pollution, deforestation, climate change, exploitation by humans, mining recklessly possibly, using chemicals, pesticides in the soil, all have contributed to this, which is pushing our planet to an edge. Will Earth survive the next billion years? So most of us, or majority of the common people, I'm not talking about people who are CEOs and directors or senior professionals or possibly ministers or government authorities, majority of the common man, they don't care actually. We can say whatever we want to say here. This is my honest feedback. They are only surviving for the day, possibly for the week, for the month, for the year. What will happen after 100 years? That's what I said. Keep your hands on the heart and think. Many of the people are not bothered. But it's time for us to create a big change from the grassroots level. I've seen a lot of panelists, speakers talking about, regulatory frameworks, the metrics, supply chain audits. One of the panelists just now before my speech said, data is very important. Somebody said data, the metrics what we use is for marketing purposes. It might not be the reality on the ground. We need to make a big change in this thought process. So let's watch a small video on global warming, where we are.
Once our planet thrived, a cradle of life, a sanctuary for all. But now, temperatures soar, ice melts, fires rage, storms destroy, global warming is tearing it apart. Our Earth is screaming for help. Billions suffer. Homes are lost. Futures are stolen. If we don't act now, this is the legacy we will leave. A planet in ruins, a future in flames. But it's not too late. We can heal our Earth. Renewable energy, reforestation, sustainable choices. Together, we can protect our home. For us, for them, for the future. The Earth is in your hands. Act now.
So we all know, we are all supply chain procurement professionals. We know it's the supply chain that keeps the world moving. So the entire process, right from procurement of raw materials to delivery of finished goods to the end customer, all these above stages, from manufacturing to discarded products, we generate a lot of waste. We have been working on a linear supply chain for all these years, till the time people started talking about sustainability, and sustainability became a norm for many organizations. So a lot of consumption of energy, which we contributed to the greenhouse, the logistics, like it has a big chunk of contribution to the greenhouse emissions. In the industrial era, we produced possibly more than what we could consume. From handmade products, people went into bigger factories and produced en masse. Many of them went as garbage, possibly into the landfills, and again created the issues with respect to the fertility of the soil, or again contributed to the greenhouse emissions. In US, I was reading a statistics, I think last year, in the attics of the people, they found products worth more than $1 trillion, which they purchased based on a sale, or which is not required, which was an induced purchase, and which they had to clear and possibly put it under the garbage. So a lot of products were manufactured, were not used, and just dumped. So it's supply chain, according to me, across all the departments in any organization or in any country, it is the supply chain which can contribute to sustainability and beyond sustainability. Earlier, supply chain was very simple. You just buy, get the goods at the lowest possible price. The focus was always on cost, speed, how fast you can deliver to the customer, and obviously profits to the organization. So it created a lot of pollution, a lot of products were wasted, like I said, and resource depletion. It was like a machine. So we were eating the earth like a machine. Then came sustainability. In 2000s, businesses realized that if you continue to do this, we will be very soon out of our natural resources. Natural resources, which is as basic as our food grains, the agriculture, the coal, the mining, everything is going to come to a standstill. And most importantly, all these are going to create a big shortage of food. So that's why a lot of countries today talk about the food security. Then came sustainability. So then we talked about how to reduce the emissions. Like I've seen many panelists been talking about how to be carbon zero, carbon neutral, how to reduce emissions, how to cut waste, use renewable energy like solar. So, 3 components we have talked about in supply chain sustainability. Many speakers, many conferences we have seen even today as well. So, we have a green supply chain which integrates environmentally responsible principles and benchmarks, includes product designing, material sourcing. So, right from designing the product, you think about green. Can this product be recycled? Can this go back to the factory and made into a new component or a new product? Transparent supply chain. So this is one of the main area which I feel where the sustainability becomes, there is a bottleneck for the sustainability. Companies, they might be having sustainable practices, but as like in any supply chain, a link or a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if your entire supply chain, you are the organization who does sustainable practices. Okay, you focus on, you have a lot of CSR activities, you do afforestation, you reduce papers, which helps to cut down the trees. But what happens to your supplier's supplier? What happens to your customer's customer? What happens in your supply chain, right from the starting point to the end point? This transparency is very, very important to maintain sustainability across your supply chain. Otherwise, one person does well doesn't make the entire supply chain sustainable. Circular supply chain. So this also became very popular. You return, refurbish, you use it. For example, the fishing nets. Fishing nets is one of the biggest contributor to the plastic waste in the oceans. Now, if you can retrieve all those fishing nets, or if you can reuse, for example, to make into a carpet tile, the plastics which goes into the ocean, if you can find an alternative use for those kind of products, it can really help the environment. So circular supply chain again gained prominence, but there are a lot of challenges. Higher costs of return, the reverse logistics takes a lot of money. So if you have the organizations have to send the goods back up the chain, it costed a lot of money. So will it help the organization sustain? So we are talking about sustainability. Sustainability is not only about the environment, but it's also about the organization, whether can it sustain. So cost is a big challenge. Supplier pushback. Supplier doesn't want to take the product, rework on the product. For example, it's sending like a laptop up the supply chain, getting it repaired, and it comes back and resold as a new product to a customer. So can the suppliers accept it? So there are a lot of supplier pushbacks. There are a lot of confusing standards. There are regulatory frameworks, I agree. There are sustainability audits, like my friend Grant from ASCM. He said ASCM has a very robust audit structure for sustainability in supply chain. There is a good framework which Blue Ocean is implementing in many organizations. But again, it's very difficult for us to go into any organization and convince them. Out of 100, possibly 2 might accept it. Again, what I've seen from my experience is, it is not because they genuinely feel, okay, we need to contribute to the society or to the, to the environment. It's because of some pressure from the government or from the higher management, things gets implemented. Again, monitoring is very tough. Like I said, transparency is very important. How you can overcome these challenges? Technology, clear standards, train the suppliers, and audit regularly. Audit, audit, and audit. So you need to set a standardized benchmark. You need to use digital technology. Today we have AI, we have IoT, we have a lot of things, big data available to us. And if you put everything, today we are operating on cloud as well. So the data transparency is much easier. The blocks between two organizations, earlier the data was in two servers, it's very difficult to get the data. Now data is available on the cloud, IoT. We need to break those barriers by bringing all the suppliers into one common platform, all the customers of us into the common platform, so that we can get this successful. So like everyone knows, it's not about only environment. We have to survive as human beings. We have to take care of the people. We have to take care of the planet, and obviously we have to be profitable, because if there is no profit, the organizations will not invest in sustainability, and we have to also take care of the people. Now, the topic of today, which is thinking beyond sustainable supply chain. What if supply chains could restore degraded lands? What if earlier the concept of, we are talking about linear still, we are not talking about circular supply chain. In a linear supply chain, because many products might not be able to go back to their source for recycling. What if in a linear supply chain, the end product, instead of getting wasted, dumped in garbage, can it add value to the environment? Like, for example, can it add more fertility to the soil? Can it have, I'm just saying, throwing caution out of the wind, can it be carbon negative, the product, which is the end product, if it will be disposed? That is what we are thinking about regenerative supply chain. Turn deserts into forests, reverse carbon emissions. Can it absorb more than it emits? And empower communities. So this is the crux of regenerative supply chain. So we are talking about repair and regenerated. So this is not a dream. This is already happening in many places. We will see some of the examples. So regenerative supply chain. Regeneration is just not about doing less harm. It is repair, growth, thriving. Core idea of regenerative supply chain is to restore ecosystems, to empower people, and to sustain profit. So we are talking about planet, people, and profit here also. But instead of sustaining what we are having, so in sustainability, what we are talking about, you sustain what is now and do not do more damages. So that's why you're talking about carbon neutrality. You don't emit more. But in regenerative, what we are talking about, carbon negative. We are talking about repairing, for example, the soil, repairing the earth. So can supply chain contribute to this? So supply chain which gives back more than it takes. So as of now, we are just digging the earth, taking everything from the environment and eating it like a planet. But can the supply chain reverse the idea and make every product which moves from the manufacturer to the end customer, the last mile delivery, can it help reverse all these things, what's happening? So how regeneration redesigns the game? So it heals the ecosystem, it uplifts communities and create net positive outcomes. So the concept started becoming popular in 2010. So regenerative agriculture. So that's where the core lies. It started from there. We as Blue Ocean, we did a project in India, or not I cannot say project, it's like a test for farmers in India, where their crop yield, can we increase the yield of the crop using organic material and increasing the soil biodiversity. Are we technical in agriculture, blue ocean? No. But using supply chain principles, can we help reverse the trend? So we are going to take up few farmlands and few factories in India. Our consultants are working on that to see whether we can reverse the trend using AI tools and using supply chain principles. So if we are successful, possibly we might roll it out to the other parts of the world. So regenerative supply chain gained mainstream attention through the Ellen MacArthur and Paul Hawkins. So they were talking about circular economy and climate crisis. So the core principle revolved around the circularity. So reuse the materials. Let the material go back up the supply chain. Or if not, if it cannot go back right to the source, in between the supply chain, some links, for example, in a distribution center or in an intermediate factory or in an intermediate country, can these products go back, get repaired, and which can be reused? Carbon negativity, this was I was talking about, it's no more about carbon zero. Can we absorb more? Social equity. So it talks about the people also. Now generally, for example, when a tourism happens, so we are lucky, most of us are lucky to be in a country like UAE, a place like Dubai, where tourism does not harm the ecosystem. But if you go to many places in the world where there are a lot of tourists going in, I don't want to name the countries or the cities, you will find there is a lot of degradation happening, whether it's a beach or whether it's a forest, where there is a lot of plastics you can see thrown around in the beaches. You can find plastic thrown in the forest, in the openly in the dump. We have places, but still, see, I come from a place in India called Kerala, where there are places, there are forests, protected areas, where you cannot even take a plastic bottle. There are checkpoints by the government where they will check your vehicle. Are you taking any plastic items? If you are there, you are supposed to dump it there itself. You cannot take inside that protected area. So we need to have possibly rules or regulations like this or initiatives like this, which helps us to go into the carbon negative zone. So the shift from sustainability to regeneration is about net positive impact, not just damage control. So sustainable versus regenerative. So from reducing harm to healing. So in a sustainable approach, we talk about cutting down the waste. In regenerative approach, fix what's broken, like planting trees or other initiatives. From using less to giving back. Sustainability talks about, okay, less use of, fewer resources, use less energy consumption. So in regenerative, give more. For example, energy consumption, make it less. That's a sustainable. In a regenerative approach, you say you implement solar panels and you generate more electricity and give it back to the grid. So that means you are giving back more than you are consuming or you are generating. So this becomes a regenerative approach. Far away to nearby. So this is a typical supply chain, not an issue or a problem, but possibly we can call it as an initiative, which started after COVID. During the COVID, all the supply chains got disrupted across the world. So the organizations or countries which had longer supply chains faced severe shortages of material. The shelves were empty in the supermarkets or in the pharmacies. People were suffering. From then, the organizations or the countries, they started thinking about, instead of sourcing from far, why don't we source from near? Which means, let's empower the local communities. For example, if you are living in Dubai, instead of importing from somewhere else, let's start producing what we need in UAE, which is another government initiative here, which helps us to reduce the logistics cost, which helps us to reduce the carbon emissions because of the transportation. Now, you might think how feasible it is, because most of the goods are manufactured in the east and the consumption happens in the west. How is it possible that we can cut off the entire supply? But if you see the new policies from various governments, supply chain disruption is already happening. The tariffs or the ecological problems or climate changes have all put us in the risk after COVID as well. So many countries are encouraging their manufacturers to set up base within their own system. Like, for example, in India, we have Make in Bharat, Make in India concept. We have something known as Atmanirbhar Bharat. That means self-sufficient India. So that means you don't look outside. Whatever you need, whether it's goods or agriculture or clothes, electronics, everything you produce within your own country, which helps in a way. Okay, one, it boosts the local economy, and second, it helps to reduce the carbon emissions. From surviving to thriving, keeps the supply chain going despite problems. Build a stronger supply chain that grows healthier over time, ready for anything, which is the regenerative supply chain we're talking about. From profit only to people and planet too. So in sustainability, we talked about making money while being eco-friendly. In regenerative approach, we talk about making money, but also you help the local communities, the local ecosystem. For example, let's say in a hospitality industry, you use a lot of, I'm sure all of you stay in hotels, you use a lot of toiletries, you use, dental kits, the towels. Instead of sourcing it from overseas vendor, why don't you source it a handmade product from a local supplier, which is made of organic product, which can be recycled, and when if it cannot be recycled, can it be reused in another form? Or when it goes into the earth, can it increase the soil biodiversity? So whatever happens within the same community. So a supplier who might be in somewhere in another part of the world might not really care about what happens to the local community or local ecology. But is somebody who is staying within the community, within the same locality, might be much more conscious. So can we source from them and help the community grow? So regenerative models drive 2 times faster growth than the sustainable only place. Okay, don't take me wrong. I am not saying sustainability is not good. People might kill me because that's what we have been talking about. What I'm only trying to make you think, is there anything beyond sustainability? The Red Sea project is one of the very new projects many of you would have heard in Saudi Arabia, which is for practicing regenerative supply chain. So they are focusing on the same thing, to restore the ecosystem. So the Red Sea is, I think it's the 4th largest or 5th largest coral reefs in the world. So all the islands they are not going to build resorts. And whatever money which is being generated, they are going to clean the coral reefs, because marine ecosystem is also very vital for human life. Generally, according to the studies, whenever there is tourism happening, so the coral reefs get damaged, bleached using chlorine and other chemicals, which kills the marine species. So Red Sea is going to completely, the resort is going to completely change that concept. They are going to give back to the society more than what it is taking. So they are going to restore a lot of coral reefs, not only to maintain or sustain them. So it aims for a 30% net conservation benefit by 2040, powered by renewable energy. The environmental restoration, 20 plus acres of new wetlands, 70% of 90 plus islands preserved. That's what I'm saying. They are not going to take out all the islands and put resorts in those. 70 plus 1,000 jobs and training for local companies. Now, Blue Ocean as an organization, we are training companies in Red Sea. Red Sea Global is the master planner for Red Sea tourism. So Blue Ocean as an organization, we have a contract with them for training in procurement and supply chain, helping them implement or align them or aligning with their vision of a sustainable or a regenerative supply chain practice. So there the Saudi supplies are prioritized. If you can see every country, every city, or for that matter, they want the suppliers to be registered locally. This is again a new trend happening around the world. If you want to do business in Saudi Arabia, you need to have a local license there. Every country is now preferring local suppliers to overseas or faraway suppliers. Masdar City, I think we already spoke. I think friend Sulaiman spoke about Masdar City's zero carbon. It's again another major breakthrough or major initiative by the UAE government in Abu Dhabi. Dubai Sustainable City is built on the circular economy model. Now, if you ask me, are all these projects big success? My frank opinion is no, because we are still in the starting phase. We want, unless we get the public participation, nothing can be successful. The people have to believe that whatever the government is doing or whatever these concepts are, they are not only a boardroom concepts, but it is going to touch every one of our lives. Possibly if it doesn't get restored, it doesn't get regenerated, we might not be alive. Possibly in the next 100 years, it can go much, much worse. So in the previous video, we have seen it 3 or 4% growth in the Earth's average temperature can really make a lot of, can turn Amazon into a savanna and into a desert land. So when will it happen? Will it happen today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow? Possibly that's a question for scientists to answer. But we as an individual, we as an organization need to focus on getting it right. Apple is a very classic example, the Daisy robot. They target that this year they will use 100% recycled material. So Apple have something known as a Daisy robot, which is recycling. I don't know, some of you would have seen the videos. One single Daisy robot, I think there are 3 or 4 in circulation if I'm not mistaken, can can dismantle 1.2 million iPhones per year. Now, are they going to dump it into garbage? No. Including the nut, bolt, the cobalt, everything, they are taking it piece by piece and using for the next Apple iPhone. 1 metric ton of recovered iPhone parts avoids mining of 2,000 metric ton of metal-rich rock. and Daisy can identify 23 phone models. So this is very classic initiative of reuse and recycle. Some of the products gets repaired and goes back. If you go to an Apple store and give your old iPhone, they might give some value for it depending upon the model, of course. But majority goes back to the Daisy bot and it gets repaired, or it gets stripped up of its parts and reused for the next iPhone model, not necessarily the same iPhone. So how to transition to regenerative supply chains? To assess, first is evaluate and make use of the existing sustainability frameworks. So like I said, ASCM has a very solid sustainability metrics and sustainability audit, which again, Blue Ocean, we help organization implement that. Now, if you go through those frameworks, it is very clearly identifies what are the gaps and how we have to overcome the challenges and how we fix those so that we have the right supply chain practices in the organization. You partner with collaborative suppliers. So when one of the key supplier identification parameter can be how good you are in your sustainable practices. Possibly you can, the weightage which you give for product quality, weightage which you give for the pricing, can also, an equal amount of weightage can be given to the regenerative practices or the sustainable practices which the suppliers are using. Now, again my question to all the procurement people here, how many of you in the organizations which you work for have these metrics? And what is the weightage given to them? Is it a very key parameter for you to select the supplier? If yes, that means you and your organization are on the right path for sustainability, sustainable supply chain, or a regenerative supply chain. Innovate, invest in circular technologies to optimize resource use. So, right from the product design, start thinking about green, start thinking about regenerative supply chain. Either if it's a linear supply chain product, can it go back into the earth and regenerate the soil or the air? Or the product what we have designed, is it a circular one? If not, try to do innovation. There are, today world is changing. There are so many ideas, so many new systems are coming into place. Use of AI is rampant now. So I'm sure every organization can innovate. Monitor and report. Set measurable goals for regenerative outcomes and use third-party certifications like ASCM, we just said. Now, all these are possible with only the supply chain leadership. The leader, all of your leaders in your own organizations, do you really believe in this? Do you really believe in sustainable supply chain? Do you really believe in a regenerative supply chain? Do you monitor your supplier's supplier? Do you monitor your customer's customer? Are they following these practices? If the answer is yes, you are doing great. If the answer is no, you need to go back to your drawing board and start now. Because we might not see possibly another 1 billion years. We might not be alive for another 1 billion years. That's another story, but we might not even there for the next 100 years.
For centuries, we have taken, pulled from the earth, consumed without pause. But what if the end of one cycle could spark the beginning of another? We built a world on a straight line: extract, produce, discard. A chain that breaks the land, the water, the air. But there's another way. A regenerative supply chain. It's not just sustainable, it's alive. It heals what was broken. Soil becomes a cradle, not a grave. Waste turns to wealth. Every product, every process feeds the cycle. Restoring forests, reviving rivers, renewing life itself. Imagine a world where every harvest strengthens the earth, where every factory breathes life into the future. This isn't a dream, it's a design. A chain that doesn't just sustain, it regenerates. A legacy of abundance, not depletion. It starts with us. With every choice, every step. Together, we don't just survive, we thrive.
So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.